Ambassador Sarah Chen stepped off the transport shuttle and onto the metal floor of the Galaxy Council Station. The massive structure hung in space above Nexus Prime like a giant metal flower, its 12 arms stretched out in perfect circles, each one representing one of the ruling species that controlled this part of the galaxy. Sarah wore her best diplomatic uniform. The dark blue fabric had small Earth symbols on the shoulders. She carried a simple briefcase with humanity's application for membership. After 3 years of careful planning, Earth was ready to join the galactic community. The station's air felt cold against her skin. Strange smells filled her nose, some sweet, others sharp like metal. The walls glowed with soft light that changed colors as she walked. This was her first time on an alien station, but she had trained for this moment her whole life. 2 security guards met her at the airlock. They looked like tall insects with 4 arms and silver skin. Their faces had no expressions that Sarah could read. They spoke in clicking sounds, but her translation device changed their words into English. "Follow us, Human Chen," one guard said. "The council waits." They walked through long hallways filled with aliens from many different worlds. Some floated in the air like living clouds. Others moved on 6 legs with skin like tree bark. A few looked almost human but had eyes that glowed like small stars. None of them paid attention to Sarah as she passed. The guards led her to a massive round room with 12 raised platforms. Each platform held representatives from the council species. At the center sat the Zephyrians, beings made of living crystal that sparkled with inner light. To their right were the Kethvar, a group mind that spoke as one voice through hundreds of small creatures. "Human Sarah Chen," announced a voice that came from everywhere at once. "You stand before the Galaxy Council. State your purpose." Sarah stepped forward and opened her briefcase. Inside were data drives containing everything about humanity, their history, technology, culture, and peaceful intentions. She had practiced this speech 1,000 times. "Honored council members," she began, "I bring greetings from Earth and all human colonies. We request membership in your alliance. We offer our knowledge, our friendship, and our promise to follow galactic law." She held up the first data drive. "This contains our history. We have learned from our mistakes and grown beyond our violent past. We now explore space with peaceful goals." The second drive glowed softly in the strange light. "Our technology focuses on healing and building, not destroying. We have cured diseases and learned to grow food on dead worlds." The third drive felt heavy in her hands. "Our culture values life and freedom. We believe all thinking beings deserve respect and the right to choose their own path." The council members talked among themselves in languages that hurt Sarah's ears. The translation device struggled to keep up with the rapid conversation. She caught words like primitive, dangerous, and threat. Finally, the Crystal Zephyrian leader spoke. "Human Chen, your species interests us. You have grown quickly in a short time. Perhaps too quickly." The Kethvar collective buzzed with one voice. "We have watched your people for many cycles. You fight wars among yourselves. You damage your own world. You spread to other planets like a disease. That was our past," Sarah said firmly. "We have changed. We united our world and healed our environment. We want to learn from older, wiser species like yourselves." A new voice joined the conversation. It came from a tall, thin being covered in dark metal plates. "Your weapons concern us, Human Chen. You build things designed only to kill." "We have military technology, yes," Sarah admitted. "But we use it only for defense. We have not attacked any other species. We come here with open hands." The council members continued their discussion. Sarah noticed their tone getting colder. The crystal beings pulsed with red light instead of their earlier blue. The collective creatures moved in angry patterns. "Human Sarah Chen," the lead Zephyrian finally announced. "The Galaxy Council has reached a decision." Sarah felt her heart beating faster. This was the moment that would decide humanity's future among the stars. "Your species shows promise," the crystal being continued, "but also great danger. You advance too quickly. You think too much of yourselves. You believe you are equal to species that have ruled the galaxy for thousands of years." The translation device crackled with static as multiple council members spoke at once. "You are children playing with fire. You do not understand the order that keeps peace in our galaxy." "We can learn," Sarah said quickly. "Give us a chance to prove ourselves. We will follow your guidance." "No," the Kethvar collective buzzed. "Your kind will upset the balance. You will challenge our authority. You will try to change things that should not be changed. The room grew darker as the walls shifted color to deep red. Sarah felt the temperature drop even more. Something was very wrong. The Galaxy Council, announced the Crystal Leader, rejects humanity's application for membership. Furthermore, we declare your species a threat to galactic peace. Sarah's training took over. She remained calm even as fear filled her chest. If you will not accept us, we understand. We will return to our space and leave you in peace. No, the metal-plated being said with a voice like grinding gears. You have seen too much. You know too much. Your species must learn what happens to those who reach beyond their place. The guards moved closer to Sarah. She backed toward the center of the room, but there was nowhere to run. This is a peaceful diplomatic mission, she said, her voice steady despite her fear. I am protected by galactic law. I have diplomatic immunity, the crystal being pulsed with bright red light. Human, you mistake us for equals. We are your superiors. We make the laws. We decide who lives and who dies. Sarah reached for her communication device, but one of the guards grabbed her arm with crushing force. The device fell to the floor and shattered. Your death will send a message to your kind, the collective said in their buzzing voice. It will show them what happens to species that forget their place. Please, Sarah said, still trying to find a peaceful solution. My death will not teach anyone anything. It will only create anger and mistrust. Your species will learn to fear us, the metal being replied. Fear brings obedience. Obedience brings peace. The crystal leader raised one arm. Energy began to gather around its crystalline fingers. Let all who watch remember this moment. Let them see what happens to those who challenge the natural order. Sarah stood straight and proud, facing her death with dignity. My people will remember this, she said clearly. They will remember how you treat those who come in peace. They will remember to obey, the crystal being said. The energy blast struck Sarah's body and began breaking apart her molecules. The pain lasted only a moment before everything went dark, but her last words were recorded by the station systems and broadcast across the galaxy as the Council intended. What the Council did not know was that every human ship, station and colony received the broadcast. They watched their ambassador die for the crime of asking for friendship. They saw the Council's true nature revealed in a moment of casual cruelty. In that moment, something changed in the collective human spirit. The peaceful species that had come seeking friendship began to prepare for war. They had learned an important lesson. Some beings only understood force, and humanity was very good at providing force when necessary. The Galaxy Council had just made the worst mistake in their long history. They had shown mercy to a peaceful human. Now they would learn what happened when humans stopped being peaceful. The news reached Earth in 8 hours and 17 minutes. The quantum communication array on Luna Base received the broadcast signal from the Galaxy Council station. The message was short and clear. Humanity's ambassador was dead. Admiral Marcus Torres sat in his office deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room had no windows, just screens showing data from across human space. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his time as a combat pilot. Now he commanded something much more dangerous than a single ship. Sir, his aide Lieutenant Kim entered the room. The full broadcast is ready for your review. Torres nodded and activated the main screen. He watched Sarah Chen die for asking for friendship. He saw the council members laugh as her body dissolved. He heard their words about teaching humanity its place. How many people have seen this? Torres asked. Every human settlement, sir. All colonies, ships, and stations received the broadcast within minutes. The council wanted everyone to see it. Torres stood up and walked to a wall covered with classified documents. Behind them was a safe containing orders he had hoped never to use. He entered his authorization code and pulled out a red folder marked Annihilation Protocol. Lieutenant Kim, send a priority message to all military commanders. Use authorization code Alpha 77. Tell them the protocol is now active. Sir, are you sure? Kim's face went pale. Once we activate the protocol, there's no stopping it. The council killed our ambassador during a peaceful mission, Torres said quietly. They broadcast her death as entertainment. They declared us a threat simply for existing. They made their choice. Now we make ours. Torres opened the red folder and began reading orders written 5 years ago by Earth's best military minds. The humans had always known this day might come. First contact with aliens could go 2 ways: peaceful cooperation or violent conflict. They had prepared for both possibilities. "Send the first activation signal," Torres ordered. "Wake up the sleepers." Across the galaxy, hidden ships began receiving coded signals. These were not regular human vessels that the aliens knew about. These were ghost ships, stealth vessels built in secret and hidden in empty space for years. Each ship carried a crew of volunteers who had spent years in suspended animation, waiting for this moment. Captain Lisa Park opened her eyes for the first time in 3 years. The medical systems in her ship slowly brought her back to consciousness. Around her, 19 other crew members were also waking up. Their ship, the Hidden Blade, had been drifting in dark space near the Zephyrian home system. "Status report," Park said as soon as she could speak clearly. "All systems online." "Captain," replied her second-in-command, Major Chen. "We received the activation signal 47 minutes ago. The protocol is active." Park felt sadness and anger fighting in her chest. She had known Ambassador Chen personally. They had served together on the first human exploration ship. Now her friend was dead and humanity was at war. "Begin Phase 1, Park ordered. "Target their communication arrays first." Similar scenes played out on 73 other hidden ships throughout Galaxy Council space. Each ship had spent years studying a specific target system. They knew where every satellite station and defense platform was located. They had been watching and planning while pretending to be space debris or dead asteroids. The Zephyrian home system had 6 communication satellites that connected their world to the rest of the galaxy. Captain Park's ship fired 6 missiles, each one traveling at 90% of light speed. The missiles were tiny, no bigger than a human fist, but they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. The satellites exploded one by one, cutting off Zephyrian communications. Before the aliens could react, more missiles destroyed their early warning systems and military command centers. In 16 minutes, the most advanced species in the galaxy was blind and deaf. Phase 1 complete, Park reported to Earth. Beginning Phase 2. Phase 2 was the cyber war. For 3 years, human-computer experts had studied alien technology through peaceful trade and diplomatic missions. They had learned how alien computers worked and found their weaknesses. Now they used that knowledge as a weapon. Dr. Elena Vasquez sat in a hidden bunker on Mars, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards. She was humanity's best hacker, and she had spent years preparing for this moment. Her target was the Kethvar Collective Network, the system that connected their hive mind across multiple worlds. "Initiating virus upload," Elena said to her team. "Remember, we're not trying to hurt individual Kethvar. We're breaking their ability to coordinate as a group." The virus she had created was a masterpiece of malicious code. It would spread through the Kethvar network like a disease, creating false information and blocking communication between different parts of their collective. The hive mind that had ruled for centuries would become confused and paranoid. Similar attacks hit every council species. The metal beings called Omnicon found their artificial intelligence systems turning against them. Their robot armies stopped following orders and began protecting human interests instead. The shape-shifting Veloth discovered that their bioships were infected with engineered viruses that made them sick and weak. "Sir," Lieutenant Kim reported to Admiral Torres, "Phase 2 is showing excellent results. Alien communication and computer systems are failing across 12 sectors." Torres nodded grimly. "Begin Phase 3. Release the infiltrators." For years, humans had been living among the alien species. They had come as traders, scientists, diplomats, and refugees. The aliens had welcomed them, thinking they were harmless primitives. They had been wrong. These humans were not refugees or traders. They were deep cover agents with advanced technology and years of training. Now they received orders to stop hiding and start fighting. On the Vorthak capital world, Dr. James Wright had spent 2 years working as a medical researcher. The aliens trusted him to study their biology and help treat their diseases. They never suspected that he was also learning how to create new diseases that would target their specific genetic markers. "Computer, release biological agent Omega-7, Wright said to his laboratory systems. "Target, Vorthak military bases only." The agent spread through the air systems of every military facility on the planet. It was designed to cause temporary paralysis in Vorthak physiology, making their soldiers unable to fight without killing them. Wright was a doctor first, and he wanted to win the war without unnecessary death. Other infiltrators had different missions. Some sabotaged power plants and transportation systems. Others hacked into government databases and stole military secrets. A few simply disappeared into the wilderness, ready to begin guerrilla warfare if needed. Phase 3 complete. Torres received the final report 6 hours after Sarah Chen's death. All infiltration teams have activated. Enemy infrastructure is collapsing. Torres looked at the galaxy map on his wall. Red dots showed failing alien systems. Blue dots showed hidden human assets moving into position. In 6 hours, humanity had gone from a peaceful species asking for membership to the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. "Sir," Kim asked quietly, "what about Phase 4? Torres picked up another red folder. This one was labeled Total War. Inside were plans that would turn the galaxy into a battlefield. Weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. Ships that could travel faster than anything the aliens had. Soldiers trained to fight in any environment against any enemy. We wait, Torres said. Let them realize what they've done. Let them understand that they attacked the wrong species. Maybe they'll try to make peace. And if they don't?" Torres looked at the picture of Sarah Chen on his desk. She had been a good woman who believed in peaceful solutions. She had died trying to build friendship between species. Her death had unleashed something the galaxy was not prepared to face. "If they don't," Torres said, "then we show them what happens when you mistake human kindness for human weakness. We show them that we can be much more dangerous than they ever imagined." The Galaxy Council had made their choice. They had chosen war over peace, fear over friendship, death over life. Now humanity would show them the consequences of their decision. The sleeping giant was awake, and it was very, very angry. 3 days after Sarah Chen's death, the Galaxy Council realized they had a serious problem. Their communication networks were failing. Their computer systems were acting strangely. Their military forces were reporting equipment failures across dozens of star systems. High Counselor Zethron of the Zephyrians called an emergency meeting. The crystal being's usual blue glow had turned an angry orange color. "What is happening to our systems?" the leader demanded. "The humans," replied Collective Prime of the Kethvar. The hive mind's voice carried tones of worry and confusion. "Our analysis shows the failures began precisely 6 hours after we executed their ambassador." "Impossible," said War Master Chronix of the Omnicon. The machine being's metal body sparked with damaged circuits. Humans are primitives. They lack the technology to cause such widespread damage. Counselor Vex of the Veloth tried to shapeshift into a more intimidating form, but her biosuit was infected with unknown viruses. She remained stuck in her basic humanoid shape. Perhaps we underestimated them. The council chamber itself was showing signs of damage. The lights flickered randomly. The air recycling systems made strange noises. Even the translation devices were providing incorrect words, making communication difficult. "Report on current system status," Zethran ordered the chamber's artificial intelligence. The AI's voice crackled with static. "Communication networks 73% non-functional. Military command systems 48% compromised. Transportation networks 61% offline. Unknown virus detected in all primary databases." High Counselor Zethran's crystal body pulsed with angry red light. How did primitive humans accomplish this? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Vasquez appeared on every screen in the council chamber. Her image was clear and sharp, while the alien system struggled to function around her. "Greetings, Galaxy Council," Elena said with a cold smile. "I am Dr. Elena Vasquez, Director of Human Cyber Warfare. I wanted to personally thank you for the excellent access to your computer systems." "Impossible," War Master Chronix's mechanical voice screeched. "Our systems are protected by quantum encryption." "Yes, they were," Elena agreed. "Very impressive quantum encryption. We studied it for 3 years through our peaceful trade missions. Your people were very helpful in explaining how it worked. They never suspected we were taking notes." The council members looked at each other in growing alarm. They had shared technology with humans as part of normal diplomatic contact. It had never occurred to them that the humans might use that knowledge as a weapon. "You see," Elena continued, "you made a mistake. You assumed we were stupid because we're young. But humans have always been good at learning quickly, especially when we're motivated." Collective Prime's buzzing voice filled the chamber. "What do you want? Money, territory, resources? What do we want?" Elena's smile disappeared. "We want Ambassador Sarah Chen to be alive. We want her to complete her peaceful mission. We want the Galaxy Council to accept humanity as equals. Since you made that impossible, we'll settle for teaching you a lesson." The screens around the chamber began showing images from across Council space. Zephyrian communication satellites exploding in silent flashes, Kethvar hive ships drifting powerless through space, Omnicon factories producing defective robots that refuse to obey commands. "This is just the beginning," Elena said. "For 3 years, we've been preparing for the possibility that first contact might go badly. We hoped for friendship, but we planned for war. You chose war. We can destroy your worlds," Zethron threatened, his crystal body blazing with energy. "With what?" Elena asked. "Your fleets can't coordinate attacks because their communication systems are infected with our viruses. Your weapon systems keep targeting the wrong coordinates because we've corrupted your navigation computers. Your soldiers can't follow orders because their equipment is working for us now." War Master Kronix tried to access his military networks, but his own internal systems were compromised. "You've turned our technology against us," he said in amazement. "We learned from the best teachers," Elena replied. "Your own people taught us everything we needed to know." They were so proud of their superior technology, they loved explaining how much more advanced they were than primitive humans. Counselor Vex managed to speak, despite her malfunctioning biosuit. "What will it take to stop this? What are your demands?" "Our demands?" Elena's image multiplied across every screen. "We demand justice for Ambassador Chen. We demand respect for peaceful diplomatic missions. We demand that you remember this lesson. We can make peace." Collective Prime buzzed frantically. "We can negotiate." "You had your chance for peace," Elena said coldly. "Ambassador Chen came to you with open hands and an open heart. You killed her for entertainment. You broadcast her death to intimidate other species. You made your choice. The lights in the council chamber went out completely. When emergency power restored minimal lighting, Elena's image was gone. In its place was a simple message: Phase 3 active. Phase 3 was the revelation of human infiltrators. Across Galaxy Council space, humans who had lived among the aliens for years revealed their true purpose. They had been planted as sleeper agents, gathering intelligence and preparing for this moment. On the Vorthak homeworld, the aliens discovered that their trusted medical researcher, Dr. James Wright, had poisoned their entire military with a paralysis agent. Vorthak soldiers across the planet lay helpless in their barracks, unable to move but still conscious. The Thrakari mining colonies found that their human engineering consultants had secretly installed explosive charges in every major facility. The humans offered a simple choice: surrender the colonies peacefully, or watch them explode. The floating cities of the Neptari discovered that their human cultural exchange students had hacked into the gravity generators that kept their cities in the sky. The cities would fall unless the humans chose to maintain the systems. "How many humans are there among us?" Counselor Vex asked the emergency session. "Thousands," Collective Prime reported. "They've been infiltrating our societies for 3 years. They're everywhere. They've been studying us," Zethron realized, "learning our weaknesses, preparing for this war. But they seem so peaceful," War Master Kronix protested. "They brought gifts and offered friendship." "They were peaceful," a new voice said. Admiral Marcus Torres appeared on the Council's emergency communication channel. "They genuinely wanted friendship. You killed that possibility when you murdered Ambassador Chen." The human admiral looked tired but determined. Behind him stood other human military officers with cold, professional expressions. "Admiral Torres," Zethron said, trying to regain some authority. "We can discuss terms. Perhaps Ambassador Chen's death was hasty." "Hasty?" Torres repeated. "You tortured her to death for asking to join your club. You laughed while she died. You broadcast it as entertainment. There's nothing hasty about torture and murder. We are willing to pay compensation," Collective Prime offered desperately. "Compensation?" Torres's voice grew dangerously quiet. "What's the price for a good woman's life? What's the cost of destroying trust between species? How do you compensate for choosing cruelty over kindness?" The council members realized they were dealing with something they had never encountered before. Most species, when faced with superior force, would negotiate and submit. Humans seem to operate by different rules. "What do you want from us?" Zethron asked. "Justice," Torres replied simply. "You declared war on humanity when you killed our ambassador. You wanted to teach us our place in your galaxy. Now we'll teach you something about the consequences of your actions." "We could fight back," War Master Kronix said weakly. We have weapons you haven't seen. Do you? Torres asked. Are you sure your weapons will work? Are you sure your computers will target what you want them to target? Are you sure your own people will follow your orders? The council members tried to access their military networks and found chaos. Human cyber attacks had corrupted data, changed targeting systems, and infected command protocols. Their own technology was no longer trustworthy. This is Phase 3, Torres explained. Phase 4 will be much worse. I suggest you think carefully about your next actions. The transmission ended, leaving the Galaxy Council alone with their failing systems and growing fear. They had ruled the galaxy for centuries through superior technology and overwhelming force. For the first time, they faced an enemy that had turned their own advantages against them. In just 3 days, humanity had gone from a dismissed primitive species to the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. The Council was beginning to understand that they had awakened something terrible, something that would not stop until justice was served. The humans had been peaceful because they chose to be peaceful. Now they were choosing something else entirely. 1 week after Ambassador Chen's death, the Galaxy Council learned what human warfare really looked like. The cyber attacks and sabotage had been just the opening moves. Now came the real war. Captain Lisa Park watched her target through the Hidden Blade's sensors. The Zephyrian homeworld hung before her like a giant crystal ball, its cities glowing with beautiful light. Soon that beauty would be gone. All ships, this is Wolf Leader. Park spoke into her communication system. Begin Phase 4 operations. Remember, we're not here to conquer. We're here to end this. Around the Zephyrian system, 73 human ships decloaked simultaneously. They had been hiding in dark space for years, watching and waiting. Each ship was small by galactic standards, but they carried weapons the aliens had never imagined. The Zephyrian defense fleet tried to respond, but their ships moved slowly and without coordination. Human cyber viruses had infected their navigation systems. Some ships fired on their own allies. Others spun helplessly through space, their crews unable to control their vessels. Target their primary crystal cities, Park ordered. Use the gravity bombs. The gravity bombs were humanity's newest weapon. Each bomb created a tiny black hole that lasted for exactly 30 seconds. It was enough time to destroy anything within a 50-kilometer radius. Then the black hole would evaporate harmlessly. The first bomb struck the Zephyrian capital city. The beautiful crystal spires that had stood for 10,000 years cracked and shattered, pulled into the artificial black hole. The Zephyrians who lived there had 30 seconds to watch their greatest achievement disappear into darkness. Second target locked, reported Park's weapons officer. The military command center. Fire. Another gravity bomb created another temporary black hole. The Zephyrian military headquarters, built from the strongest crystal in the galaxy, lasted less than 15 seconds before being torn apart by gravitational forces. This is Zethran. The Zephyrian leader's voice crackled through damaged communication systems. We surrender. Stop this destruction. Surrender? Park replied coldly. Did you accept Ambassador Chen's surrender? Did you show mercy when she begged for her life? We made a mistake. We can make peace. You made a choice, Park corrected. You chose to murder a peaceful diplomat. You chose to threaten humanity. You chose war. Now live with the consequences. The third gravity bomb destroyed the Zephyrian Senate building. Centuries of history and culture vanished into the artificial black hole. The crystal beings could only watch as their civilization was systematically erased. Similar attacks were happening across the galaxy. The machine world of the Omnicon faced a different kind of destruction. Human computer viruses had turned their own robot armies against them. Mechanical soldiers that had served for centuries now followed human commands. War Master Kronix tried to shut down the corrupted robots, but his own cybernetic implants had been infected. Impossible, he said as his own arm began moving without his control. We built quantum firewalls. No virus should be able to penetrate our systems. Your quantum firewalls work perfectly. Dr. Elena Vasquez appeared on every screen in the Omnicon Command Center, against quantum attacks. Unfortunately for you, we're using something much simpler. The human cyber warrior smiled as she explained. You see, every quantum system needs a basic operating system to function, something simple and reliable to boot up the complex quantum processes. We attacked that basic system. Your quantum defenses never even noticed. Kronix watched in horror as his own robotic forces turned their weapons on Omnicon cities. Buildings that had stood for millennia crumbled under assault from their own protectors. Why? Kronix asked. We can rebuild. We can make reparations. Because you need to understand, Elena replied. When you killed Ambassador Chen, you declared that humans are enemies to be destroyed. We're simply fulfilling your expectations. The Kethvar collective faced their own nightmare. Human biological weapons had infected their hive mind network with a virus that caused paranoia and mistrust. Different parts of the collective began fighting each other, convinced that other sections had been compromised. Collective prime to all units, the hive leader buzzed frantically. Ignore contradictory orders. Trust only verified communications. But the collective couldn't tell which communications were real and which were human deceptions. Ships fired on each other. Ground forces attacked their own bases. The unified mind that had ruled for centuries was tearing itself apart. The shape-shifting Veloth found that their bioships were dying from engineered diseases. The living vessels that carried them between stars were infected with viruses that attacked their nervous systems. Veloth crews watched helplessly as their ships convulsed in agony before going dark. Our ships are dying, Counselor Vex reported during an emergency communication with the other Council survivors. The humans have created diseases that target our biotechnology. They've studied us, Zethran said bitterly. His crystal body had lost its glow as his cities burned. For 3 years they studied everything about us. They learned our weaknesses while we dismissed them as primitives. We must contact Admiral Torres, Collective Prime suggested. Perhaps we can negotiate a ceasefire. He already told us his terms, Kronix pointed out. Justice for Ambassador Chen. What kind of justice? Vex asked desperately. They had their answer within hours. Human forces appeared over every Council homeworld simultaneously. The ships were larger than the initial attack vessels, and they carried weapons that defied understanding. Admiral Torres appeared on all communication channels throughout Council space. Behind him stood the flags of every human colony, space station, and military unit. His expression was cold and final. People of the Galaxy Council, Torres began. 7 days ago you murdered Ambassador Sarah Chen. You killed her for the crime of seeking friendship. You broadcast her death to intimidate other species. You declared humanity a threat to be eliminated. The Admiral gestured to displays showing the current state of Council space. This is the result of your choice. Your fleets are destroyed. Your cities are burning. Your civilizations are collapsing. You wanted to see what happens when humans are treated as threats. Now you know. We surrender. Zethran broadcast desperately. We offer complete surrender. Surrender? Torres repeated. To whom? You've spent centuries telling the galaxy that you're the supreme authorities. You've claimed the right to decide who lives and who dies. According to your own laws, we're just primitive creatures with no legal standing. We were wrong. Collective Prime buzzed frantically. We recognize human authority. We acknowledge your equal status. Equal? Torres's voice grew dangerously quiet. You want equality now? After you murdered our ambassador? After you declared us a species to be eliminated? The human admiral paused, letting his words sink in. Here are my terms. The Galaxy Council is dissolved. Its member species will surrender all military assets to human forces. Your governments will be replaced by human administrators until you prove you can govern without threatening peaceful species. That's conquest, War Master Kronix protested. No, Torres corrected. Conquest is taking something that belongs to others. This is justice. This is the consequence of your actions. You declared war on humanity. You lost that war. Now you face the results. The displays behind Torres showed human ships moving into position over every major council world. The vessels carried planet-cracking weapons that could destroy entire worlds with a single shot. You have 24 hours to comply with these terms, Torres announced. Surrender your military forces, disband your governments, and submit to human authority. If you refuse, we will demonstrate what happens when humans stop holding back. And if we comply? Counselor Vex asked quietly. If you comply, you will be treated with the same mercy you showed Ambassador Chen, Torres replied, which is to say none at all. But you will live as prisoners rather than dying as enemies. The transmission ended, leaving the Council survivors to contemplate their fate. In 7 days, they had gone from supreme rulers of the galaxy to defeated prisoners awaiting human judgment. The species that had laughed at humanity's peaceful ambassador now faced a choice between surrender and annihilation. They had learned too late that humans were dangerous not because they were naturally violent, but because they became absolutely ruthless when their values were violated. The Galaxy Council had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about power. Instead, they had learned something far more terrifying about the consequences of moral failure. Humans could be the most peaceful species in the galaxy, or they could be the most dangerous. The choice had been up to the Council. They had chosen poorly. 6 months after Sarah Chen's death, the galaxy had a new order. The Galaxy Council was extinct. Their great civilizations lay in ruins. The species that had ruled for thousands of years now existed only as scattered survivors hiding in the Outer Rim territories. Admiral Marcus Torres stood on the observation deck of the new orbital station above Nexus Prime. The old Council station had been destroyed in the first week of the war. This new structure was built by human engineers with help from the few alien species that had proven themselves trustworthy. "Sir?" Lieutenant Kim approached with a datapad. "The morning reports from all sectors." Torres took the pad and reviewed the information. 47 star systems now operated under human administration. 312 alien species had formally requested protection under the Chen Doctrine. 17 former Council species remained in exile, refusing to accept the new order. "Any word from the Zephyrian survivors?" Torres asked. "They're still hiding in the Andromeda Void," Kim replied. "Long-range sensors detect about 50,000 crystal beings living on dark matter asteroids. They refuse all communication attempts." Torres nodded grimly. The Zephyrians had once numbered in the billions across dozens of crystal worlds. Now they were a dying species, too proud to ask for help and too broken to rebuild on their own. "What about the Kethvar Collective?" "Fragmented beyond repair, sir. The HiveMind virus we used created permanent psychological damage. They can no longer link their consciousness. Each Kethvar individual is completely alone for the first time in their evolutionary history." Torres felt a moment of sympathy for the insect-like beings. Their entire culture had been based on shared thoughts and unified purpose. Now they wandered through space as isolated individuals, unable to reconnect with their own kind. The Omnicon. Machines? Most of them shut down permanently when their War Master was killed. The surviving units have formed small communities in neutral space. They've requested permission to establish a peaceful colony in the Vega system. "Approved," Torres said. "But they'll be monitored closely. Any sign of military buildup, and we intervene immediately." Kim made notes on her datapad. "The Veloth shapeshifters have been more cooperative. Their new leadership formally apologized for Councillor Vex's actions. They've offered to share their biotechnology in exchange for protection from other hostile species." Torres considered this carefully. The Veloth had been followers rather than leaders in the Council's decision to kill Ambassador Chen. Their current government had executed the officials responsible for that choice and implemented democratic reforms. Conditional acceptance, Torres decided. They can join the protection program, but their bioweapons research will be supervised by human scientists. We won't let anyone develop biological weapons that could threaten peaceful species. The new Galactic Order operated under principles that the old Council had never understood. The Chen Doctrine stated that any species could receive human protection by demonstrating 3 things: peaceful intentions toward other species, democratic governance that respected individual rights, and a formal apology for any past aggressive actions. Species that met these requirements were welcomed into the Human Protection Network. They received advanced technology, military defense, and economic opportunities. Species that refused these terms were left alone in neutral space, free to exist but forbidden from threatening others. "Sir," Kim continued reading from her reports, "the Altarian Federation has formally requested full membership in the Human Alliance." Torres smiled slightly. The Altarians had been one of the first species to contact humanity after the Council's fall. They were peaceful traders who had been oppressed by the Council for centuries. Under human protection, they had flourished and become valuable allies. "Granted," Torres said, "the Altarians have proven themselves. They deserve full partnership status." A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Torres activated the communication system and saw Captain Lisa Park's face appear on the screen. She was broadcasting from the patrol ship New Horizon near the Galactic Rim. "Admiral, we've..." Detected a large fleet moving toward human space, Park reported. It appears to be a coalition of former council species. They're heavily armed and moving in attack formation. Torres felt his expression harden. How many ships? Approximately 800 vessels, sir. It looks like the surviving Zephyrians, Kethvar fragments and Omnicon units have joined forces. They're calling themselves the Liberation Coalition. Liberation? Torres asked. Liberation from what? From human tyranny, according to their broadcasts. They claim we've conquered the galaxy and enslaved peaceful species. They say they're coming to restore the natural order. Torres looked out at the peaceful activity around the station. Ships from dozens of species moved in harmony, protected by human defense platforms. Trade routes that had been closed for centuries under council rule now flourished with commerce and cultural exchange. Sir, Park continued, they're demanding we withdraw from all alien territories and return control to the rightful governments. The rightful governments, Torres repeated. You mean the ones that murdered peaceful diplomats for entertainment? That's our perspective, sir. They see things differently. Torres activated the station's main communication array. All sector commanders, this is Admiral Torres. We have incoming hostiles. Activate Defense Protocol 7. All civilian traffic is to clear the main shipping lanes immediately. Within minutes, the peaceful trade routes emptied as merchant ships moved to safety. Human warships emerged from hidden positions throughout the sector. These were not the small stealth vessels that had begun the war 6 months ago. These were the full battle fleets that humanity had been building in secret for years. Open a channel to the Liberation Coalition, Torres ordered. The main screen filled with the image of a crystal being that Torres recognized as Zethron, the former High Counselor. The Zephyrian's once beautiful form was cracked and dim, bearing the scars of his species' defeat. Admiral Torres, Zethron said with barely controlled hatred, you will surrender immediately and withdraw your forces from sovereign alien territory. Sovereign territory? Torres replied calmly. According to whose authority? The Galaxy Council, that murdered Ambassador Chen? The same council that declared humanity a threat to be eliminated? You have conquered our worlds and enslaved our peoples, War Master Kronix added, his mechanical form patched with crude repairs. We demand the restoration of legitimate governments. Legitimate governments, Torres repeated. The ones that tortured peaceful diplomats to death? The ones that ruled through fear and oppression? The ones that declared war on humanity for asking for friendship? Collective fragment. 7, speaking for the scattered Kethvar, buzzed angrily. You destroyed our civilization. You broke our collective consciousness. You committed genocide against our people. I committed justice, Torres corrected. You murdered an innocent woman. You broadcast her death as entertainment. You threatened to destroy humanity for the crime of seeking peace. I gave you exactly what you gave us. We offer you one final chance, Zethron announced. Withdraw from alien space, or face the combined might of the Liberation Coalition. Torres looked at the tactical display showing the approaching fleet. 800 ships was a significant force, but not compared to humanity's full military capability. The aliens still didn't understand what they were facing. I have a counteroffer, Torres said. Turn around and go home. Return to your exile in neutral space. Live peacefully and leave other species alone. Do this and we'll forget you ever threatened us. Never, Kronix screeched. We will reclaim our rightful place as rulers of this galaxy. Then you've made your choice, Torres said sadly. Just like you did 6 months ago when you killed Ambassador Chen. The human admiral turned to his tactical officers. Launch the Judgment Fleet. What emerged from human space was beyond anything the aliens had imagined. Not hundreds of ships, but thousands. Not small patrol vessels, but massive battleships equipped with weapons that could crack planets. The Liberation Coalition's 800 ships found themselves facing a fleet 10 times their size. This is impossible, Zethron whispered as his sensors showed the scope of human military power. You've never understood us, Torres explained patiently. You thought we were weak because we sought peace. You thought we were harmless because we offered friendship. You never realized that we were peaceful by choice, not from weakness. The human fleet moved into attack formation with terrifying precision. These were not panicked movements or desperate tactics. This was the calm, methodical deployment of overwhelming force. "We surrender," Collective Fragment 7 buzzed frantically. "We withdraw our demands." "Too late," Torres replied. "You had 6 months to live peacefully in exile. Instead, you chose to threaten the species under our protection. You chose to break the peace we offered after your defeat." "We can negotiate," Zethran pleaded. "We can find a peaceful solution." "You could have found a peaceful solution 6 months ago," Torres pointed out. "Ambassador Chen came to you seeking exactly that. You tortured her to death instead. You've proven that you don't understand peaceful solutions." The human weapons fired simultaneously. Not planet crackers or gravity bombs this time, but something much more final.